.com. Well, that's information that's priceless, really.
It is.
It really is. Well, we go on to all the other wonderful things you're doing. You are involved in something now that you are that has to do with historical reference.
I am currently writing a book on the history of blacks in San Francisco from World War II forward. I've just completed an hour-long lecture for the African American Historical and Cultural Society on the history of blacks in San Francisco, which leads into the history of blacks in California.
Yeah.
California was named for Queen Calafia, who was an Amazon queen, from a book from Montalvo in 1510 talking about a magic island where it's inhabited by black Amazons. And all of the implements, the harnesses for their animals, their weapons were all made of gold. So when Coronado comes here and discovers this area, he calls it California, basically.
Well, now tell me this, where were these women, Amazon women, where
in
were
this
they
mythical, this mythical island that was west of India. And so when Portola, Dianza, Drake, all the explorers had Africans with them. There was a fellow by the name of Estebanico who was crashed on the east side of Florida in 1527, 1528, along with another man, and they walked for 7 years exploring the Southwest. We were here from the very beginnings.
First, so we were...
There were 400 or so black 49ers. By the time 1860 rolled around, there were about 1,200 black people and 4 newspapers. It shows you what a literate community that we had here. And by the time World War II came along, there were about 5,000 African Americans here. But when World War II came to work in the shipyards, our numbers moved up to around 48 to 50,000. Kaiser was bringing black folks in from the South at the rate of 3 train loads a day to work in the various shipyards. So our numbers increased considerably. And most went to Kaiser shipyard, some in Marin City, some to some over here to Oakland.
And we know a lot of the 16th Street Station things, all of these people that worked the Southern Pacific came out of New Orleans.
Yes.
That's where they came
New Orleans has a very interesting history.
Absolutely.
At one point in New Orleans, 4/5 of the homes in New Orleans were kept black women. They had an interesting combination of, as you pointed out.
My grandmother's octoroon, so I know just what, remember the octoroon balls,
yes.
Frank Yerby?
That's absolutely right.
That's right, that was it.
Octoroon.
My grandmother could sit on her hair. So that's her Irish blood, and French and Spanish and African.
Well, the rule was one drop of black blood and you were considered black.
Now, I understand that a lot of blacks were up near the Santa Rosa in that whole county up there.
That is
they merged with Indians, and that has never been in the history books.
And there was a lot of slavery going on in Marin County and beyond until the 1900s. And there's a book, Slavery by Any Other Name, which talks about impressment and working in chain gangs up until the World War II, which was essentially a form of slavery.
Don't you feel, Noah, that there's going to have to be some rewriting of African history? Because we have not really even touched the... we've had to go to the British Museum to get information on Africans.
Well, John Ottawa Killens came to Fisk when I was a student there. It was an historically black college in Nashville, Tennessee. And he said his daughter came to him one time and said, Daddy, how come the lions are always killed by the gladiators in the arena? And he looked at her and said, it will be that way until the lions learn to write the history books. Ooh. And so kind of that's what we're dealing with.
That's what we're dealing with. Well, now, I know that on top of all of this, you've kept up your wonderful love of music.
Well, I started off in the age of 7 with the San Francisco Boys Chorus, and we got a chance to open up Disneyland and perform with Paul Robeson and Nat Cole and Leontine Price, which was a thrill. And then we recorded some music in the late 50s before my voice changed, auditioned at the Hungry I, was a Fisk Jubilee singer, and have kept up the music on the side up until 3 years ago, where I gave it more attention. And since then, I've performed at Birdland in New York, at Caesar's Palace in Las Vegas. And I will be at the Nico Hotel coming up the Raz Room, and I'll be at the Enrico's on the 22nd. We're doing a tribute to Sammy Davis.
Oh, that's great. I interviewed him. That was my big, I got an award from San Francisco State University for, I did 2 interviews. One after he hugged, he talked about Nixon, and nobody would touch him with a 10-foot pole, and he flew us up to Tahoe, and we did that interview, and that's where he wept on camera. It was.
He's one of the most versatile, and he opened a lot of doors that people don't understand.
He did.
He opened up a lot of doors for folks.
He did. He paid $40,000 a year, automatically went to the Urban League for schools, and didn't come out until that show.
Very generous man.
Yeah, very generous man.
Very generous man.
And talking about your music, we're going to hear your music coming in on the show. That's you singing and going out on the show. Some wonderful things. And I have that DVD, and I wondered if you could tell us the name of the DVD so somebody might want to.
Well,
and where they can get it.
Jazz for Taylor. Taylor's my daughter.
Jazz for Taylor. And what does that mean? Who's Taylor?
Well, Taylor's my daughter. She's quite a singer.
Her name was Taylor.
She was with the Branson Girls, and they sang at the White House in December. And the month before that, I had sung at the State Department. I wrote a song for Roots of Peace, and we sang there. And so she sang at the White House.
So this is dedicated to your daughter.
This is dedicated to my daughter.
Is she musical as well?
Very musical.
Does she sing?
She sings. In fact, when I did my Cole Porter concert and my Nat Cole concert, she sang at me at both.
I was going to say you were like Natalie and Nat King Cole.
We did Anything Goes for the Cole Porter, and we did Unforgettable together as the duet from that Nat Cole had done. And I was supposed to perform with Natalie Cole until she took sick. I was saddened by that, but she's quite the singer. So this jazz, we did Bluesette, which is a Toots Thielman's 3/4 waltz tune, which we did. Cesar Cancena of Oakland did the arrangement of it. And then we closed with, we have Lush Life on it, the Billy Strayhorn tune.
Yeah, I love that.
Which is so wonderful. Oddly enough, he wrote that at 17 years old. The same age that Langston Hughes was when The Negro Speaks of Rivers. He wrote that.
Tell us about the history of what you dug up about the Portuguese, was it, that ended up with Langston Hughes?
Oh, well, we talked about the raid on Harper's Ferry, October 16th,
yes, raid on Harper's Ferry. Tell us.
There were a number of blacks with John Brown, one of whom was Lewis.
Which was never recorded for Black history.
Lewis Sheridan Leary, who was a student at Oberlin, who left his 23-year-old pregnant wife, didn't tell her where she was going to participate on the raid with John Brown, was shot in the Shenandoah and washed up on shore. They comforted him in a shawl. They sent that bloody shawl back to his widow. That widow rocked her baby in that shawl. That baby's baby was Langston Hughes.
Now that is an incredible.
That shows you how close.
I hope Langston Hughes knew that.
Yes, he did. He wrote Echoes from Harper's Ferry, and he died in 1967. My roommate was in Jericho Jim Crow. He was an understudy. That was through Arna Bontemps, who was with Langston Hughes. They were both part of the Harlem Renaissance. They were very close friends. They have letters. They have books of their letters back and forth, which are so instructive of what went on during the Harlem Renaissance. And when they were disgusted with somebody, they'd say, he acted so C-O-L-L-U-D, so colored.
So That's like people saying, I'm not going to church, I'm going to church.
Axe to coach.
Yeah, we had our own.
Way of speaking.
I was going to ask you, do you have other CDs out?
Yes, we have an official Song of the Golden Gate Bridge. We have a DVD, History of the Golden Gate Bridge, and also I wrote the official Song of the Golden Gate Bridge. I wrote the song for the Giants for opening day, and we have a Christmas CD, which has 2 original songs on it, which George Shearing says he thinks they have commercial possibilities.
Now he's still around, isn't he?
George Shearing is still around, and Eddie Fisher reviewed it and said he thought it was great. So.
Now, the point is we can get this through
NoahGriffin.com.
And
it's a website with all my recent recordings. And
just wonderful.
So it's fine. It's been an avocational. It's turned into something that I enjoy doing.
Well, you know, I wanted to ask you about your year. You were on Frank Jordan's.
I was press secretary for how long? Frank Jordan for 3 years.
Okay, could you tell us a little about that? That's
it was a wonderful. It was a wonderful. I was the first and only black press secretary in the history of San Francisco, and it was a wonderful occasion. It was an opportunity to help be spokesperson for what was a very tough time. The budget. The Giants were about to leave. He was able to save that. We had the mass shooting down at 101, some of the building that was going on, helping further the project of Mission Bay, and a lot of things behind the scenes, making sure that we had sufficient numbers of African Americans on commissions. There was an individual who was on the community college board who might not have otherwise been there. Just having a spokesperson inside. And it was, to be able to speak on issues other than somebody looks at you, oh, it's going to be a black issue. No, it was a city issue.
Exactly.
And I think President Obama is finally erasing that. You don't have to look in the entertainment section, in the police blotter, or the sports section to see somebody black.
Isn't it refreshing?
Being a spokesperson. I remember when Kofi Annan became head of the United Nations.
All
of a sudden, the level of attention to the United Nations wasn't as great as it was before. Nelson Mandela pointed that out. You can't ignore the President of the United States.
No.
Just can't ignore it. And the reception that he gets around the world really restores faith and confidence.
And I think it's